When you're working with individuals with additional needs, it's really helpful to have some practical tips and strategies of things that you can be doing to support people to be able to engage in all the activities that you have going on. So one of the most important things that we need to understand and know about is communication. So there are loads of different ways that we can communicate with individuals. One of the most important things when you're communicating with someone is to make sure that you have their attention first. So rather than giving someone instruction and saying, oh, I need you to go and sit down on that chair over there, Naomi, it's really important to start with somebody's name to get their attention. So I might say, Naomi, sitting. You might notice that what I've done is I've really shortened the language that I'm using. I haven't kind of gone on this long-winded sentence. I've used a keyword of something that I'd like somebody to do. And obviously that's going to totally depend on the individual that you're working with. If you don't know somebody that you're working with, actually making sure that the things that you're saying are really clear and simple instructions can be a really good place to start. Always starting with someone's name, if you know it, is a really helpful strategy to use as well. So Naomi sitting would be a much better thing than going off on that long-winded sentence. The other thing we can think about is think about the way that we understand, not just through things that we hear, and particularly if someone has a hearing impairment, you need to be thinking about other ways that you can communicate things to people. So it might be that you have individuals who are deaf and then they might need British Sign Language. So if that's something you need to make sure you've booked BSL, British Sign Language interpreters who can be interpreting things at the event. But it might be that you also have somebody who actually has some ability to hear and can also do some lip reading, or also has other ways of understanding auditory information. But it might be that signs help support that information. So we also know that there's a sign language called Makaton. Makaton is like a simplified version of BSL, British Sign Language, but it's often used with individuals who have learning disabilities. So it's actually not an alternative to speaking out loud, it's something that's used in conjunction with. The key thing with Makaton is it's kind of an add-on, so you sign keywords rather than having its own kind of sentence structure and way of talking. BSL is a language in its own right, whereas Makaton is a support to spoken English. So we can use simple signs like sitting, which help to indicate to someone actually what it is I'd like them to do and give them a really clear visual cue of what it is that I'd like them to be doing. Visuals don't just have to be with our hands, they could be pictures. One of the things that can be really helpful for everyone is having a schedule of what is happening when it's going to happen. I don't know if you've ever had that thing where you've lost your diary, or for whatever reason you don't have an idea of what you're doing when, and that can feel really stressful. It can be really frustrating when you don't know what is going to happen and when it's going to happen. So whether somebody has anxiety or autism or a learning disability, actually having a schedule of what's going to happen and when it's going to happen can help everyone feel much more calm and able to join in and transition between all of the different things that we're asking them to do. You can use things like a visual schedule. So a visual schedule helps you see and understand what it is that's happening when. So we might know that, okay, first we're going to do worship, then we're going to do Bible teaching, then somebody is going to talk from the front, etc. What you can do is you can have a visual schedule like this where you can take symbols off when they're finished. So you can say, our worship is finished and now we're going to do reading from the Bible. That can help people know when something's going to happen and actually also when it's finished and we're going to move on to the next task. You can do that in loads of different ways. So if you have a young person who actually, feels like that's a bit beyond them, they don't want those kind of images, you can do it with just words, you could do it with hand-drawn pictures, you could get somebody to draw it with you, you can do it in all sorts of ways, but actually having something written down which helps people know what's happening when it's going to happen is a really helpful way to get people to engage. Another way that individuals communicate or can communicate is through something called PECS, a Picture Exchange Communication System. So this is something used generally by individuals with autism and quite significant autism, so who don't have many words themselves, but they might have a symbol or a picture that they give to you, which means they're trying to communicate that they want that thing to you. So it's important just to ask parents or carers if that's something somebody is doing. If someone has cerebral palsy, they might have a kind of array of different communication systems, but that could look like looking at a computer with their eyes, or having a folder with different symbols that they point to tell you how they're communicating. So another really good thing to be aware of. The other thing about communication is actually linked to behaviour. So we know that behaviour is communication. If someone is behaving in a way that is disruptive or that, challenges things in any way, actually what's happening is they're trying to communicate something. And that might not necessarily be on a conscious level. They might not know why they're behaving a certain way, but for whatever reason, they're feeling overwhelmed and their behaviour is showing everybody else something that they're feeling. So when you have or seeing a child or young person who's experiencing some kind of challenging behaviour, actually making sure that you can give space to that individual can be really helpful. Enable them to be somewhere safe to be able to work through what it is that they're struggling with, but also really think about reflecting back what you see in their communication. If someone's looking really angry, reflecting back, oh, I see you're feeling really angry, can help somebody feel really understood and then can help move beyond that. Some other really important practical strategies that you can be thinking about are things like movement breaks. So we've already talked about proprioception, our sense of body awareness. The more movement input you give to your body, the more you help people concentrate. So thinking about movement activities in and amongst everything that you're doing in your program can be really, really helpful. Even if that's like, okay, everyone get up, turn around and sit back down again, is something that will enable kind of everyone to start thinking back at that kind of just right level. Or even as simple as, give yourself a quick hug can be a really good way of helping people feel back to just right. Things like fidgets, so different tangles or twist and lock blocks, they're really good for helping people have something in their hands which gives them the movement input they need to stay at that just right level so that they can then concentrate on a task. So many times when I've been working with individuals, I've given them something in their hands, I've sat them on a cushion which gives them a bit of movement, and actually that's made all the difference to them being able to concentrate and engage in everything that's going on. When you're coming across individuals who have different needs, you might come across things like people who respond to loud noises in a way that they don't like them at all. They might put their hands over their ears, they might want to run away. Things like ear defenders are a really quick and simple strategy that can help people to be able to engage in that situation. You might find people find the crowd too much. Things like giving someone a beanbag or a spot they can sit on actually can help someone feel like, okay, this is my space and I know that I'm here and that's safe, and that can help me to engage. There are loads of other different practical things, but you can kind of have a box of tools which enables you to engage people in different ways. You could have a box with fidget toys, with ear defenders, with clay, things that you can do that enable you to engage in different ways, to draw maybe while you're listening to the talk, so it's not just verbal communication, but so you're seeing how something looks. Can be ways that you enable people to engage in something that's going on at the front. You might choose to pray in a more practical way. You might choose to pray by blowing some bubbles, or by molding some clay, or even by stamping on some bubble wrap, things that actually enable you to do something in a practical way, which enables you to engage and actually connect with a God who isn't just about us learning in a way that is one particular way, but is about recognizing the uniqueness of each and every one of us. So of all of those things we've talked about, there are 3 things that are really good for you to remember. That's to welcome, to support, and to ask. To welcome everyone, whatever their needs are. To support, to be able to offer help, think about those practical strategies whenever you can. And to ask the individual or their parent or carer what might be helpful for them. So welcome, support, and ask.